Welcome.
Good morning. So today is February 6th.
Yep.
February 6th, 2022. And our topic today is this all there is? Is that all there is?
Yeah.
And we're going to begin with an affirmative reading and prayer by Ernest Holmes. And the topic, the title is, I know that life, and that's a capital L, meaning the life of God. I know that life responds to me. The law of life operates through your affirmation. Nothing can hinder its working. There is no more of it on the desert than there is on the busiest street corner.
That's interesting.
And it will not respond any more quickly because we go up into the temple. It is everywhere. Therefore, it is where you are. And most of all, it responds where you recognize it. Your recognition makes possible its response through you. This is the secret of faith. Faith is the supreme affirmation. It is the unconditioned affirmation. It is the affirmation that makes all things possible to the one who believes in the power of God. Know that nothing can hinder you but yourself. If you believe you can, you can. You cannot fail if you start with the proposition that life, that's capital L, meaning God, is all there is. It is the substance of every form. As the invisible, it is the cause. As the visible, it is the effect. So say with me now this affirmative prayer. Right now, I move from fear to faith. I let go of all doubt and distrust, worry, and fear. I change the direction of my life by focusing my thoughts on God, the life within me, everyone and everything. I have supreme faith in the power of God to still the troubled waters and make the crooked places straight.
I got to start.
And so it is.
While you were reading that, I had a sudden image. You may have seen it on. I saw it on Nature, and I've seen it on YouTube. And there's a mountain lion chasing a baby bear, and what the preface for this is that God is in all of us equally all of the time. There's no place that God is not. And so this little bear doesn't know that. And this little bear is running like mad, trying to get away from this mountain lion. And it looks like it's going to be fatal. As often life looks like it's going to be fatal when we're facing some dilemma or some situation. All of a sudden, the little bear turns around and he raises his paws like that. And when he raises his paws like that, this giant mountain lion, he's on a log crossing a river. And so he turns around in the middle of the log, raises his paws and growls at the mountain lion, and the mountain lion immediately cowers. And you realize, of course, that God in this little baby lion or the baby bear is all there is, until you look behind it and you see a mama bear. So what I want you to know is that mama bear is always there. Mama bear isn't always visible, but mama bear is raised and ready and will take on the enemy. The problem is we often don't believe that mama bear really does exist. We say we do.
Or mama bear is there.
We think that mama bear is an idea or a concept rather than a reality in our everyday life. And so your job this week is to constantly be looking over your shoulder and saying, thank you, mama bear, I know you're there. and look within and say, thank you. They know that mama bear and papa bear and all the bears that I've ever needed are all there present within me. And that will really profoundly change your life unless it's hunting season.
Very good. Very good. Very good, Bob. So we wanted to talk this week about, the title is called Is That All There Is? Because sometimes we get in a rut in our life and think we can't change it, can't make it any better. And we go, is this it? Is this all there is? And we're saying, no, it's never all that is. And then it becomes, well, then how do we change it? Well, we believe that it is done unto us according to our belief. So if it's done unto us according to our belief, and we might believe some things that would be pretty victimizing, like I'm powerless and I'm powerless to change this. And then if you believe that, that becomes so. So sometimes new students ask me, well, it's what I believe. How can I change it? Mm-hmm. That's what I grew up with. That's what I've experienced. Well, your experience has nothing to do with what's so. What's so is that the power exists everywhere all the time. And as the reading that I shared with you earlier is that as you recognize the power as God's power, and that it's always working through you according to your belief, it's up to you to do the changing of what you expect and what you believe. And I'd like to posit that we're always changing our beliefs based on when we get new information. We change our mind based on more information. I can think of a lot of things I used to believe that I don't believe anymore because I got more information and I changed my mind. And so is it with all of us. And just because it's been our experience or it's always been that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Any circumstance does not have to stay that way because, I say, the power of God is infinite and it's available to you.
And the trouble with that for most people is the power of God that is in all of us is unfortunately, for the most part, an invisible power.
Yes.
And because we believe in the visible more than the invisible, we tend to function on the basis of what I would call the paradigm of safety. Safety at all costs. And what I mean by safety really for most of us is the safety of the ego. And the ego, that is that part of us, and it's not a bad thing, the part of us that's looking out for us, that's saying, be careful where you step, be careful how you look, make sure you're dressed right, make sure you're not stupid, make sure you don't do the wrong thing. Because there's a belief somehow underneath all of that, that if you do the wrong thing or don't look good or aren't right, it'll be fatal. And so the ego is rather primitive in its understanding of the possible fatality of life and the fragility of life is really what I want to say. And the truth is we're not fragile. The truth is our nature is we have God in us all the time. But what I'm talking about is that safety, that need for safety, meaning I'll do what I've always done because it's always worked, or because it doesn't make me look bad, or because it doesn't make me feel fragile, gets in the way of the adventure and the challenge and you have to move. You can't do that because you keep disappearing on me. I don't want you to lose your arm in the middle of
going
our
into
talk.
the ethers.
So, but we're not fragile like our ego would tell us we are. Our ego would tell us that no matter what we do, if we step out of line, we make a mistake. If anything happens, that's the end. And the truth is, it's not true. So what we end up doing is spending a lot of our time defending postures and positions and ideas and beliefs that actually don't work, because they give us some sense of safety, some sense of well-being. And so this is really an invitation to set that aside and say, you know what, if I look stupid or I look dumb or I do something that seems foolish, I will survive. In fact, most of my greatest lessons have come after I've gotten up from a fall, or after something's been broken or something hasn't worked. And we don't know that. Our ego doesn't know that. Our ego doesn't believe that. The ego really believes that no matter what we do, if it's not right, it's and so that, anyway, I wanted to bring that up.
Well, absolutely. And a lot of what we believe is stuff that we decided as a small child, and we need to change that. When I first came into this teaching, which was many years ago, mid 70s, I caught myself saying things like, why me, God? I'm a good person. Why am I having this hardship? Why is this happening to me? And I realized that's based on a belief that if I'm having a hardship, God is punishing me.
Right.
And I'm a good person. I don't deserve punishing, in my estimation. And I realized that's the wrong thing to say, because I don't believe God punishes us. I think that we're punished. Ernest Holmes says we're punished by our thoughts, not because of them. So our actual stinking and thinking is what's punishing us. And so I quit saying that, because I don't believe God punishes. So why am I saying, why me, God? So that's what you do. You start catching yourself and catching things that you say and what it indicates that you believe. Because what we do believe is that really all the power in the universe of creation is there, and it's available to us as we believe. And so one of the things we start doing is using affirmations. The opening reading I did talked a lot about affirmations. We are affirming what is true. An affirmation is a positive statement written in the present tense that says that you have what it is you already want. So if you're feeling sickly, you say, I am well, right here, right now. If you're wanting more income, I am prosperous, right here and right now. So that's the way they work, and they can change your mind. When you find yourself slipping and doing some stinking thinking, start using some positive in the present tense statements. Carol Lynn Grant gave us some wonderful prosperity statements that came through her. Spirit gave her these at the beginning of the year. The first one is, I'm about to walk into the most abundant, balanced, wealthy, and successful period of my life. I like that. I've been using it, and it's true for us. But I changed it just yesterday. I changed it. I am walking into the most abundant, balanced, wealthy, and successful period of my life. Because if I'm about to, I never quite get there. Do you see what I mean? And that's why we don't put it in the future tense, because if it's in the future tense, it'll always be in the future tense. So we make it in the present tense that it's happening now, because there's only one time in spirit, and it's now. So that's one way that you can start changing your beliefs, is start affirming what you know to be the absolute truth, truth with a capital T, meaning truth for God, truth for spirit.
You know, I've always struggled with that when I hear people say things like, when they get on a stage and say something, I'd like to thank you. Well, if you'd like to thank me,
Why don't you just thank me?
Thank me. But I mean, there's often we preface the thing we're going to do with I'd like to, or I'm going to, rather than the doing. And so this really it gets in front of the I'd like to, or the preface that makes it something that's going to happen in the future. When it's now, it has a great deal more power than later. I'd like to tell you that I love you. Well, what's stopping you? Oh, okay. You know, if you think about it that way, it makes a difference. You had another one though. And naturally.
Well, the importance of recognizing where the power is. You know, in other words, if you think that it's just a matter of you convincing yourself, and the power is you and your ego, I'm sorry, that's not big enough.
No.
And you won't believe it anyway. And so if you believe in a higher power, you know, it's easy to believe that God is omniscient, all-knowing. Let's see, omniscient, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent, everywhere present. So if we believe that, we believe God is spirit and energy, not a being, not a man, and that it's everywhere present, and it's all-knowing, and it's all-powerful. So you recognize that the power is God's that you're calling upon, not your own. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times what we need to change, we feel powerless to change.
You know, when you're driving, I don't care what mood you're in or how confident or non-confident you feel about anything. You don't have to ask yourself, let me see now, if I push my foot on the accelerator, will there be any power?
Right.
If I hit the accelerator pedal with the engine, if you had to do that every time, you would never get anywhere. So there's an assumption that even though you can't see the engine, even though you don't see the source of the power, you know that when you press the accelerator or you press the affirmation, that the power then unfolds as easily and as smoothly as your willingness to accelerate.
One of the things I used to tell my young son when he was sick is that he was a fast healer.
Yeah.
Because then he would heal faster. And at 4 years old, he would say to me, "I'm a fast healer. And I'd say, "Yes, you are." Well, just this past week, I was over there, and he had a fever. Must have been Sunday football game, because we're social distancing a little bit, but I touched his neck as I was leaving from behind him. And I said, "Oh my goodness, you have a fever." He said, "Do I?" And the next day he was sick. He stayed home in bed with a fever, and I brought him some medicines and things. And the next day he was all better. So I said, "You really are a fast healer." And he said, "I guess I am." So I think that's an affirmation that he embodied, although not enough not to get sick occasionally, as we all do. But it's a nice affirmation instead of, "Oh God, again," you know. So they are helpful. They do work. Uh, another helpful thing that I'm studying now, we're doing a class on Byron Katie's work, which is one of her books is called Loving What Is. And the book we're doing is called A Thousand Names for Joy. But it starts with this idea of no matter how bad things might seem, that you just accept it as it is all good, it's all God, and just love what is. Because this kind of acceptance, if you have just a fit about it, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't happen, can't happen. Um, doesn't match my expectations for what should happen, any of that is just puts us into a downward spiral.
You remind me of sitting in the dentist chair.
Yeah.
And when the dentist starts to get closer to you, you increase the strength of your grip
Right.
on the sides of the chair. And the thing you begin to notice after you've gotten your entire body in the most rigid possible state is it has no impact on the pain. That is, the pain is going to be the pain. And then what happens is the dentist says there'll be a little pressure here, which means he's going to induce extraordinary amounts of pain that you never thought you could endure. But the truth is that you cannot undo that by holding yourself rigidly in any posture.
Makes it more painful.
Yeah. So the real task is, it's just as the physical outpouring or outpicturing of what you're talking about is, can I release and let go of the idea that I have to hold on for dear life or I'll lose my life? Can I allow myself to embrace what is and simply say, this is what's going on with me right now. I'm going to allow it to be the best thing it can possibly be until it doesn't have a place to be anymore and I can do something different. Until you do that. And I remember when living in the Northeast where it was cold a lot in the wintertime, I noticed that if I would go outside and hold my body tightly and rigidly because it was cold, I would be colder. And if I didn't do that, if I allowed myself to simply breathe and take it in, I would go out in 30, 40 degree or 30 degree weather and I didn't even need a jacket because I was taking it in. I was allowing it. I was accepting it. And then of course I would get pneumonia. No, you learn how to accept what is, not because it makes it better, but because it makes it possible to have the next thing that's going to happen, not have to overcome your rigidity and the tightness of being that you have wrapped yourself in very often that keeps you from the next thing.
Exactly. And one of the students in the class, and she's an advanced student, she's a Unity teacher, but it's just the first time she's been a student of mine. And she sent me an email this week about how she had a seeming disaster. She lost a document on her computer that she really needed to continue a course of study to be a dance teacher. She said something she's been working on for 50 years. And her teacher told her that without it, she could not continue the next year of study. And she said, because of the class and loving what is and decide just think whatever is best and not, she said, not putting out all that negative energy, that something changed and the teacher is now allowing her to recoup that document or start all over, and all is not lost.
You remind me, I'm working with a young man now, he's probably in his middle 20s, who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I saw him yesterday for the first time, and he said, I have schizophrenia and I'll probably be in and out of institutions for the rest of my life. I just spent 9 weeks in a hospital, and he was really very sad and very upset about it. He said, my life is over. And I said, well, I'd like to tell you about about a woman who did a TED talk who has schizophrenia, who is a research scientist who's been very successful and continues to be successful. You see, the difference is that she has schizophrenia, the schizophrenia doesn't have her. I said, so what would it be like for you if you had the schizophrenia or whatever that is right now for as long as you had it, but it didn't have you? Would you be willing to have a life that didn't include giving up on yourself? And if you could have seen the change in his expression and the light that came on and the sense of aliveness, because he was actually battling two major difficulties. One was the diagnosis of schizophrenia and the symptoms that it represents. And the other is having given up on himself because of it. There are conditions that are in our lives that often cause us great pain, and then we give up, and that's the greater pain. Because the greater pain to the body is the body's, so you've given up, I guess it's over. And very often people die from the diagnosis rather than from the illness. And the diagnosis they die from is the diagnosis that they've given themselves that it's hopeless, they're never going to make it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so the belief, the body says, okay, well, if it's over, let's just get it over with, let's end. As opposed to this too shall end, this too shall pass. So when you talk about your son as a fast healer, one of the things that happens unconsciously is that idea continues to permeate the consciousness long after the person's given it up. And so when they heal quickly, they don't experience surprise, they experience this as reasonable and normal.
Right. Well, so I wanted to say a little bit more about diagnoses. Diagnosis of physical things and mental things are simply a set of descriptors of the symptoms you're experiencing at this moment. There is nothing in a diagnosis that says, and you will have this for the rest of your life, because this is who you are.
Or that it's even correct.
Or that it's even correct. This is what I'm observing right now that you're telling me you're experiencing. It's just a list of symptoms. Does it stay the same? No. And so, our dis-ease is our lack of ease can come and go and hopefully go.
My doctor, the doctor that I see, I don't really have a doctor, the doctor that I see told me, I want you to try this medication. I said, what are the parameters? What are the reasons that I would take this? And she said, well, you had a stroke in 2014. I said, but that was a long time ago. She said, I know. And at your age is one of the parameters. I said, do I look my age? She said, no. Do I seem like my age? She said, no, actually you seem quite a bit younger than that, but according to the parameters. And so I fit the 3 parameters that would cause me to take the medication. And I thought that's interesting because the diagnosis you're giving me and the treatment that you're giving me doesn't necessarily apply, but it is your protocol. And so what I'd suggest you do with the diagnosis you've given yourself, whether it's one of I'm not as smart as I need to be, or I'm not as good as I want to be, or I'm not as loving or kind as I should be, whatever the diagnosis is you've given yourself, ask yourself, is that really true? And if it's not true, or even if it seems true, does it have to be true?
Does it have to continue?
Does it have to continue? And why would you want to invest? And this is what I notice is that people invest huge amounts of energy to defend what's wrong with them, not what's right with them. And they seem to be willing to battle in the court of public opinion for their disease or for their diagnosis or for their illness. And I don't care what it is, it could be age. What you don't understand at my age, I do understand at your age is the age you say you are. If you woke up and you didn't know how old you were, then how old would you be? You probably wouldn't be as old as you are, or you'd be even older on some days. I got up the other day and I was 107 years old. And I got up yesterday and I think I was closer to 24. And so
that's before you looked at yourself in the mirror.
I tried. Well, I've covered the mirrors. That's helped, and I've also I've recalibrated the scale, which really helped.
Oh, that helps.
Yeah,
that helps. Oh, okay. Well, I think we've covered most of the important ideas, and so let's close now with a closing prayer.
Yes, we're going to first explain why we're going to play the piece of music we're going to play.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Have at it.
Well, let's end the recording first, because not everybody hears.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about it until. So you're going to, if you want to tune in to the, go ahead.
So let's close with a prayer. So, Father, Mother, God, we know that there is one power, one presence in the universe. It is an energy, not a person. It is neither male nor female. It is the creative essence of all life. And it flows through each and every one of us and responds to us according to our belief. And so we choose to expect the best, to know the best is always occurring for us, even in hardship that we may be experiencing at the present moment. We know that this too will pass. We give thanks for all that is. We know that even in hardships, that they are for us, not against us. Then we grow in wisdom, and adversity is sometimes a wonderful teacher. So we relax, we allow everything to be good and very good. And together we say,
and so it is.
So it is.
And now for the,
And so we're going to end the recording.
after we talk about,
Oh, yes, we're going to, first of all,
just, you don't have to even go to the other screen. We just have to say that for those of you that would like to donate to support our ministry, we would love to have that support. And you go to cslpalmbeaches.org, and you can make your donation in any amount that you would like. And if you go to our website, csl.org, you can see the ways to do that. And we do appreciate your gift and your support. It makes this ministry possible, and we'd like to continue it for a very long time, and we'd like to have you continue with us.
thank you. Okay, and so we will